there is a life outside of sport because we're always so pressurized by just this whole idea of performance.
We want to really highlight her side of the story. Because sports वाले बहुत निकम्मे होते हैं पढ़ाई में. That it's not always about the medals. Like it's the process. Hello and welcome to HerSide, a women-led podcast by athletes and for athletes, where we bring to you stories of women athletes in India that are uncensored, unfiltered, and unapologetically raw. I am Dalima Chhibber, a footballer for Indian national women's team.
And I'm Aditi Kakkar. I'm a national Olympic weightlifter. And we're here today to have a discussion about why we started HerSide and what it means to us. So, Dalima, I know your story. You know, we've been playing for the longest time ever since we were kids. We competed in the 100 meters together, and that's how we knew of each other as competitors, but then slowly evolved into becoming friends. I know your story, but with HerSide, we want to know your story as well. Please share.
So, like you said, like I started with athletics, and that goes way back to 2005, 2006, and eventually, because my father is a football coach, he had an academy, and I would just while I would run around, I would just see boys play football, kick a ball around, and that is how I really got intrigued into it, and I started picking up the sport eventually. But and that was it. It was in 2000, I think 9, and I got selected to play under 19 nationals, being an 11-year-old. And from there, it kind of I started getting exposed to what women's football was like. I think that is where the football journey started, pretty much in 2011, 2010 or 2011, going on to representing the Indian national team under 14, and from there on 16, 19, and now the senior team. I think it's been good 15 years of juggling studies, doing doing sports as well, fully passionately, being a woman with no regrets. And and here we are today. And how the story just goes way back to both of us competing, and now how it just feels like it's come like a full circle, that we were together. It's like yesterday that we were together, standing next to each other, preparing for a 100-meter race, and here we are. And I think it's important, and we would her side of story. We it's time that we hear her side of story, which is Aditi Kakkar's side of story as well, of sport. And I know you've juggled a lot of sport. You've gone from sport to sport, and being a woman athlete, you had to juggle a lot of things as well. So what is your story been like?
So, well, I'm very fortunate that my parents put me in sport when I was 3 years of age. I knew swimming before I knew anything else, for real. So my mom was an athlete herself back in Pondicherry, and she still has some state records in athletics. She's done many sports herself, but the kind of education that she had, it relied a lot on, being whole as a person, from education to sports to extracurricular, whatever it may be. So that she tried to inculcate in me a lot. And from that, we had, she put me in swimming, she put me in karate, she put me in judo, she put me in many other sports like gymnastics and athletics. And my father was running the marathons at the time, and he ran for 12 consecutive years. And I think they shared this bond over that, which, it sort of trickled down into my life. I didn't know that I wanted to do, sport up until I was 8 years of age. And that's when it clicked, I really love doing this. I'm good at it. I'm competitive. And the only downside I see was I didn't really have one single thing that I stuck to. Mm-hmm. It was doing everything. So I was adapting to the situation. My schedules were really hectic. I had early morning practice, then school, then I had my second sport of the day, which would be karate, and then I would go for athletics right after that. So there was a lot of juggling there, but I didn't find CrossFit until I went to JMC through sports quota. And then after that, I went to Australia, did my bachelor's, where I found CrossFit, which had weightlifting. And once I was back after COVID, I did not have one clear path because CrossFit in India wasn't a thing at that point. And I didn't want to do something that wasn't really a sport. Like, I wanted to do something where I could have the potential of reaching the highest of levels and represent my country, because the dream was to wear the Indian flag. So that's when I decided to pursue weightlifting. And I think that was the best decision that I have ever made, and I have stuck by it because I was good at it. It was so much fun. I think more than anything, more than the medals or anything, it just was about the fun, the joy, and what it like gave to me. It was so much a part of me, like I couldn't go a day without it. And with that came many medals, with that came many, stage performances, and it's still going on. So that's just been, how I found weightlifting and why I still do it. There's obviously like many more goals and dreams, but HerSide is also one of the things that we had been in talks about to really do for the longest time. But it wasn't until like a cup of coffee that we realized that this would become a thing. It was in talks for almost a year, but I think HerSide is about giving back to the sport, and it is about giving back to something that raised us.
Yeah, and gave us literally everything. Like if it wouldn't have been for sport, like we wouldn't be sitting here like sharing our stories and like bringing on other athletes and people and like stakeholders who are involved in women's sport and like everything around it. Because sport is not just like about earning medals or like achievements or like the certificates that you get or like the highest of like the representation that you achieve or like the Olympics or like Asian Games. Yes, that is a dream, but also the platform that it gives you, it's just so empowering. And like how just like so naturally the sports came to us, that is how naturally like HerSide also came to both of us. Because that one cup of coffee where we just like decided that okay, like we want to give back to sport. And we are two women in sport. We haven't been talked about. We have had these struggles. Like, what do we do about it? Let's start by educating people and bring that awareness. And from like competitors to being in the same college as well, in JMC, to like now and like sharing the same space and like following the passion that we have had for sports and like especially for women in sport, and like just bringing all of that together. It's just like a full circle moment, like
It's sitting here, it's almost unreal that we're even doing this, because it had been in both of our minds separately at separate times, and then it was there when we had a discussion as well, and then for it to become something. I think for me, it just gives me a lot of goosebumps and makes me teary-eyed just thinking about it, because we're both so passionate about what we do. We're both so passionate about sport, but how do we like drive change? How do we become role models for young girls who are seeking guidance? Because I didn't have that, you did not have that, and I think it's really important to speak up about it and create this ecosystem that we are also a part of, because we've never had this. And now with all the medals coming in, all the World Cup wins, the cricket T20 women's team which they won, like this is the right time. And one of the things we always say is, if not us, then who's gonna drive that change? Because I want to see a female athlete that I look up to speak about these things. Like, I want to be scrolling on Instagram and see those things. I don't want to be reading just content about it. I want to see and hear real stories which I can connect to. And my hope and my dream is that my voice is amplified and it reaches some girl in some corner of the country, in even the remotest parts of the country, and that it gives her the confidence to do something like this.
And also the fact that you're not alone in this journey. And like, we've been through this, you're going to go through the same journey, the struggles are going to come, it's all a part of it, but you're not alone. Like we are there, and like, there are going to be more athletes that are going to be coming on board. And like, even if like that one story can resonate with like, a few young girls, I think that is the kind of impact that we want to leave. And like for all the parents also watching and all the coaches also watching, I think like, the importance of like educating, bringing awareness, just like awareness around like women in sport, and like, what it takes to be a woman, pursue sport professionally, and like, the things that really need to change, the change that really needs to come for the young girls, so that they actually can dream about taking up the sport. And also, when a young girl takes up sport, it is not always like, I feel like when a lot of people just have that, okay, my young, like my daughter is playing, she's going to win this medal, but it's not always about that. Like, sport is such a platform that it gives you so many opportunities, and there are like so many opportunities out there. Like through sports, first of all, you network, it brings the world together under one roof, you get to meet so many people, you get to know so many people, and the kind of opportunities it really gives you, whether it's like you want to do, whether you're passionate about marketing and you're passionate about sports, like you can literally club both of them together, and like, you can do something that you're passionate about and still like, be in the field that you really want to follow in. And me being a sports psychologist, being an entrepreneur as well, and you being an entrepreneur yourself, and being a strength and conditioning coach as well, like there's just like so much that you can do. And also, like, just highlighting that fact also, like it brings me to the point that us as women who pursue sport, we have to just like wear multiple hats. Like, how just like taking up sport as a woman, like you just like are supposed to wear multiple hats, and like, just like the challenges around that, and just like wanting to pursue it professionally.
The first and foremost thing there is the barrier of entry. Barrier to entry is so high for women in India. I was in Australia, you were in Canada, and we have both seen how sports functions differently over there, and we don't have that many opportunities, the infrastructure and that awareness about these things. Like, if I was an athlete in America or in Australia, I have opportunities to go and compete at, the highest of levels. I have opportunities to even work and compete if I wanted to do both of the things. But over here, it's such a struggle. It's like either you do sports or you don't do sports. बीच का कुछ है ही नहीं. You play sport ताकि एक जॉब मिल जाए at the end of the day, रेलवेज में या एयरफोर्स में या कहीं पे भी एक जॉब मिल जाए. But athletes also need to realize that there is a life apart from sports. Like you have done it, I have done it. You were on a full 100% scholarship in Canada. I work with my family as well. We have a family business. I started a sportswear brand called Kakkar Athletica, and that also came from a place of wanting to give back to the sport. And I coach freelance sometimes, but although there is no stability being just purely in sports, you can seek that outside of it. And that's what I want to like try and tell athletes, that education and sports go hand in hand. It's not like कि एक चीज कर सकते हैं दूसरी चीज कर सकते हो. Parents को भी ये चीज जाननी जरूरी है, because at the end of the day, it's not about कि मेरे को railways में job लग गया, I'm happy and I'm sorted. There's so many more things that you can do just as a human being. Like, you can mix two fields, as you said, marketing and sports, and do something out of it. Psychology and sports, do something out of it. Sports and design, do something out of it. But there is a life outside of sport, and that many of us athletes just ignore that, because we're always so pressurized by just this whole idea of performance.
Yeah, and I think like I mentioned before, like it is just like such a powerful platform that we don't actually recognize. And again, like like you mentioned, like how education and sport also go hand in hand. There have been so many people who've actually come up to me and asked ki, like actually, I think I witnessed that like with my father. I was like at the academy, and like a parent just walked up to him and it's like, मेरा बच्चा maths में fail हो रहा है, तो मैं वो कल से training नहीं आएगा. So I think my dad was like, am I the maths teacher? And she was like, no. So he was like, yeah, मेरे को क्यों complain कर रही हो? You go and talk to the maths teacher. He's failing in maths. If you ask me about like, you know, the child, he or she is doing like really well in the sports, like why would you want her to stop? And like all of that actually just like, you know, goes down. And I think like one of the goals is like, you know, to tackle the change right from the bottom, like, you know, set the foundation right of like, you know, getting girls into sport, and like, you know, what sport can really mean to girls, to women, and like, you know, the struggles that come around of it as well. And I think again, like, you know, going back to like, there have been instances where my father has actually gone to like a girl footballer's house to like talk to the family just because the girl wanted to pursue the sport, but the family just wasn't ready to like, you know, let her play or whatever that is. But the thing is, but eventually when you see like, you know, they played until like, even if they played until like the 12th grade, it really gave them a platform to stand on and just like pursue the various opportunities that come with it. And I guess that is like how, like, you know, with all of this and like the vision and everything, like HerSide really just like came together, like the name also, because like we want to really highlight her side of the story, because it's high time that we are heard. It's high time that like, you know, we talk about it and we get her side of the story into the spotlight, and we start accepting women in sport, not just as a hobby but as a profession, that is like, you know, that they can play sport.
You and I are not hobbyists.
Yeah.
We do it with full-fledged passion, that is for sure, but it's beyond the hobby. It's about character building, it's about personality, it's about who we are, it's about everything. Sport is life, and at the end of the day, you get so much good out of it, and girls should definitely benefit out of it. It shouldn't just be like for one part of the world, you know, one part of the population. It should be for everyone. Sport is for everyone. And I think ये message parents को भी जाना चाहिए, not just young girls. It's, you know, important to get this out to the families as well, and change will only happen once awareness is out there. So HerSide is about creating that awareness. It's about, you know, finding joy in the little things of sport. And honestly, my message, my genuine message to everyone here is that अगर डालिमा कर सकती है, अगर डालिमा छिब्बर कर सकती है, अगर अदिति कक्कर कर सकती है, then definitely तुम भी कर सकते हो. And that is really the crux of the matter. And we want to be the role models, and we want to bring up many more role models and, you know, women in sports who have not had the opportunity to speak about what they do, and give them this platform.
Yeah. And also like that it's not always about the medals, like it's the process, and that is like, you know, that is what matters at the end of the day. And like you rightly said कि अगर हम लोग कर सकते हैं तो कोई भी कर सकता है. Like opportunities didn't come to us. We worked hard every day, every morning, before school, after school, day and night, we sweat it out. And I think that is what is important at the end of the day, like, you know. And even if I talk about holistic development, I don't think what sport has taught me today, or like what sport has made me today, any classroom that I sat in would have made me into that, or like just taught me those lessons. And first and foremost being कि तुम गिरो पर उठो फिर से, फिर गिरो फिर उठो. But like, you know, resilience is like such an important an aspect of life that sitting in a classroom or failing an exam can't really teach you that. But sport is like so dynamic कि हर situation इतना अलग है, there are fans, there are coaches, सबके expectations, and you're managing those expectations, you're taking decisions within a span of seconds. तुम एग्जाम में बैठते हो, तुम्हारे पास 2 घंटे 3 घंटे हैं सोच कर अच्छे से फ्रेम कर लिखने के लिए. But when I walk into a football field, I have friction of seconds to make a decision, and that decision defines what kind of a player I become. Or like, if it's a missed pass, I'm a bad player. But if I make that pass correct, oh, like you're like a really good player. So it really defines, like, you know, who I am going into the future, what kind of player I am by the decision that I make in those friction of seconds. And yeah, like holistic development is like such an important part of sport that I don't really think that sitting in any classroom or like, anything can teach you that.
So holistically, if we talk about it, sports also is not just about physical development. We both know this. It's also about mental development, and you and I have been both grade A students throughout school, and we've spoken about this before, and we never had to like rut to anything. Like even right now, if I'm having a conversation with you, it's all naturally flowing. It's not like I've had to go back and like revise and do homework or anything like that. So I aced all my exams just by being present in class. And so sports brings to you this presence of mind that you cannot find anywhere else. Like कोई maths book में लिखा नहीं है कि presence of mind कैसे लाना है. It's about how you perform in those 90 minutes, and for me it's about how I perform in those 6 out of 6 lifts that I train all year round for. My sport is very different than yours. It's an individual sport, but also at the same time, with weightlifting, you get 3 snatches and 3 clean and jogs, and all those 6 lifts can be very different from one another. Like you could be feeling tired that day, you could be feeling more energized that day, you could be having some weird niggle or pain in your knee or neck or hand or wrist or whatever. You could be intimidated by another athlete. These situations and how you succumb to those situations or come out of those situations is what makes, especially in weightlifting, a successful athlete or a successful lift. So each and every sport will give you a different sort of a give and take, but at the end of it, umbrella, under the umbrella, it's all one and the same. It gives you physical, mental, emotional, everything in a balance. And humans in general should be balanced. It's not about right or left, it's about balance.
And when you mentioned that we didn't have to like sit down and like literally like rote learn like everything, especially like we were like good in studies and good in sports as well, it really just like took me back, and I just had that moment flash in front of my eyes. So like I really thought that I would share that when I was in 12th, I was playing football the whole year.
Same,
I was
same.
I was in India camps. I was traveling with my school team or the state team for like some of the other tournament, and I came right before my board exams. And also I think there was like this stereotype जो मैंने बहुत सुना था स्कूल में भी, and I think it's very common कि sports वाले बहुत निकम्मे होते हैं पढ़ाई में. And so the thing is with me that if somebody challenges me or questions me that way, I really work to prove them wrong and like show like like what I'm capable of and what I can do. That goes to being a woman footballer as well as like being good in studies and like doing it as well. And while I was traveling, I like and I was actually still training during my board exams. ऐसा नहीं था कि like sports से छुट्टी है अब सिर्फ पढ़ाई पे focus करो. I was still training, and I ended up scoring 92% in my board exams. Like I didn't have to sit the whole year in the classroom and like or like I didn't have to like sit only in those 2 hours that I could train to like just sit and like just keep doing like like rote learning or like writing it. For me, I would just like read it, and it would just like stay with me, like the concept or like the understanding. And I think that is also like something that really sports leaves you with, like the presence of mind and like just like your understanding of things and like problem solving situations as well. So yeah, I think like I just had that entire experience. Yeah, I just had like a flashback, and yeah, I just thought that I should share that. Yes, like I am a woman who chose to play football, which was not very well known at that time. Yes, I wanted to pursue it professionally. Yes, I did it full time. And yes, along with that, I did my studies. I did my bachelor's in psychology honors. I did my master's in sports psychology, but none of that stopped me to be where I am today. And
I think, for me as well, I was never given a choice कि या तो boards की पढ़ाई करो या तो sports करो. Like कोई था नहीं. There was no option. You had to do both, because at the end of the day, it's about holistic development again. And, boards came, I never felt the pressure, aced it, went to JMC, went to Australia. What are we doing today? We're here hosting a podcast and, trying to do some good for, women in sports in India. So it really doesn't matter कि तुमने क्या पढ़ा, क्या नहीं किया, but at the end of the day, if you're doing the whole thing, as a human being, you become more proficient in life in general. And there's one example I give of my sister. She was really bad at math. I think it was 6th or 7th grade, maybe 7th grade. And then she started doing archery. She went to the nationals in archery. And suddenly that next year, her marks in maths went, she did really well. And we were also astonished ki what just happened, because there's no answer to it. Like some people will just say how usne maths mein aur mehnat kari, but nahi, it's about her when she was present in archery, that mental development started happening with sport, which was a trade-off. It wasn't a trade-off, sorry. It was an add-on with her academics. And this is exactly what parents need to understand, that it's not a choice कि तुम ये करो या वो करो, दोनों चीजें साथ में होंगी तभी तुम्हारे बच्चे को और अपॉर्चुनिटीज मिलेंगी आगे जाके लाइफ में. वो अपने आप को काबिल बनाएगा टू क्रिएट अपॉर्चुनिटीज फॉर हिमसेल्फ, बिकॉज यू एंड आई क्रिएटेड अपॉर्चुनिटीज. Everyone has to do that. It's a dog eats dog world. So sports is tough. Like it's not for everyone. लाखों में एक मेडल आता है, but वो opportunity कैसे create करते हो तुम अपने लिए, and eventually like अगर मेडल नहीं करना है, मेडल नहीं लाना है, अगर स्पोर्ट्स नहीं खेलना है, तो you can certainly work in the field of sports. It's a huge industry that is untapped right now. Sports is not even considered an industry. If I tell someone, or if I try to even think yaar HerSide karna hai, we want to do a podcast about women's sports, it's so difficult in itself to even think कि हाँ ये आगे जाके कुछ change create भी करेगा, sponsorship आएंगे भी कि नहीं, because it's not considered as a thing. Because athletes who you only get recognition after you win. अभी तो like systemic change आना बहुत बाकी है, but that change will only come once these conversations start happening. And eventually like the sports industry will become a real industry in India. As we spoke about this earlier as well, India hasn't figured out its sporting situation. It needs to, it really needs to. So in order to do that, this is the step one.
The change starts with us, like we've been talking about, if not us, who. And it just makes me think, like usually when I go for like interviews or like podcasts or like things like that, I often get asked like, what do you think has been like the biggest struggle or like the biggest barrier for you as an athlete, as like a woman athlete? And I often like and my response is literally the same, and I was like, being a woman wanting to do sport in India, like I don't think there's like a greater barrier, like a bigger barrier than that in India. And like you said, like we are still figuring it out, like what do we do, how do we support, like how can we support? I don't think we've reached the point of how can we, how or like how do we support. I think we're just like still trying to figure out, first of all, the caliber, the ability that women athletes hold, first of all, to start with. And also like then starting a conversation like, okay, and it also starts by listening to women athletes, like what is it that they actually want. Like when I was growing up, I didn't get asked as to like, what do I need as a woman footballer so that situations for me were better or opportunities were better for me. I think the last 15 years, if I think about it, 15 साल लड़ते लड़ते निकल गए कि हमें लीग दो, we want a league, we want salaries, we want like longer national team camps and stuff like that. But it's like an ongoing fight, and maybe like there's something that we can do about it, or like maybe even initiate a conversation around change. And like that somebody can go and ask a woman athlete that, okay, what is it that you think needs to change according to you to better support you? And I just feel like if we feel supported, like there's no bigger motivation than that.
Honestly, so this just tells me that, on an international scale, the women athletes have performed a lot better than the male athletes in sports in India in general. And these are facts. I mean, we see it. Like the World Boxing Championship just happened in Greater Noida, and it was like 8 out of 10 medals were the female athletes, and they're only being applauded after they win. We are getting on so many hosts for the podcast, and they're only being applauded after they do something. Nobody wants to talk about the story, the struggles. But we see some sports, some organizations now starting to put in money towards certain sports. Like athletics has boomed right in front of our eyes in the last 5 years because of money flowing in, private money flowing in. What are the organizations doing? Do we have decision makers who have any athletic experience? Do they understand sports? Do they understand women? And even if they are women, are they siding with the women or not? So there's so many questions unanswered, and we're trying to seek those answers. And we want to be part of this macro system that builds sport. Sport is it's systemic. There's so many things, there's so many pieces that come into it. It cannot just be कि हाँ मुझे मेरा सपना है कि ये करना है कि then I will only win a medal. It's not that easy. It's not that simple. Globally also it doesn't work like that. You have funds. People put the right amount of funds in the right places, which India does not do for some reason. And I want to change that, because I didn't have that for me, you didn't have that for you. And unless and until we speak about it, kuch nahi badlega. And this system has to change.
Yeah, and just like looking at women's sport holistically, like from every angle, and just like seeing how best we can support.
We're humans too. We're athletes too. We're not just women athletes. We're athletes, like male or female, doesn't matter. At the end of the day, we've had our struggles, but why should the next girl face those struggles? Make it equal.
Yeah. And also we also want to be able to sustain ourselves financially through sport. Like we do it full time, but still we have to go and look for a job.
Yeah.
Because we can't make enough from the sport that we love, and we do it wholeheartedly. We work as hard, sometimes even more.
Yeah.
And we also want to be able to sustain ourselves financially, or just us holistically, that we can just get those resources that are required for us. We can fund ourselves to develop ourselves,
to even have a respectable life. At the end of the day, it's about money going in, money going out. The mathematics only works out if there is money. If there is no money in it, nobody's gonna want to invest in it, or further the cause. So if you're given equal opportunity, you perform better, because you work as hard, if not more.
I'll tell you a funny story. So we went for Asian Games 2 years ago, and a few states, they just support their female athletes, female footballers as well. They just got a scholarship, and I'm talking 7 lakhs, 10 lakhs, 12 lakhs just for participating in Asian Games. But being how many athletes do we see actually from Delhi come out and represent the country, or make it big? But there hasn't really been any support. If you ask about me as a woman footballer, there really hasn't been any that kind of support that I've really received, or even representing, playing in Asian Games. It's a big thing, it's a big achievement. And at that time I was the only one from Delhi, but there is no sort of recognition unless and until, of course, you get a medal. But the sad reality is also that nobody is really there to support you through your journey, or help you get there, wherein you just have to work extra hard on that extra to get a pair of studs, or to just get the equipment, or just figure your way out. And when you've received a medal, or when you won a medal, everybody's there to cheer you on and everything. And it just takes me back to 2019. One of my goals went really viral, and it was a long range goal in South Asian Football Championship against Nepal in the final match. And The funny thing is that since my school days, I've scored so many goals like that. But like nobody really knew me as like a long range goal scorer until that one video in 2019 went viral. And people got their eyes. But again, like, only when we won the SAF championship, or like, when we really actually achieved that sort of level, it kind of went viral, and like women footballers started receiving the kind of recognition, or like, that we deserved even when we were struggling and we were trying to make it big. So like nobody really sees you until you kind of get those kind of results. And another fun fact about it is that the people who did not support me, because the video went so viral, I just saw that people had retweeted my tweet, or like, just retweeted a media house ka tweet, and they had said that, oh, like, this is like mera bacha hai, like, maine khilaya hai and everything. And it's just like nobody, and this, like, that is the sad reality, especially like when you're like a woman athlete, that nobody's really to support you, but like when you make it big, everybody's there to like claim it as yours. And it's just like, and like it's just like something that you really have to struggle through and like put your mind at it and get through it. But like we have to wear multiple hats. Like you do so many things. I am also a sports psychologist outside of this, and of course that also came through my own personal experiences being a woman athlete. Like I'm sure you know like how much you go through, whether it's emotions or like whether it's like mentally trying to push yourself and getting up every day and doing the same monotonous thing, and just being motivated, and how much it just like takes from you. And like that is how I became a sports psychologist, and now I'm performing my sports psychology, practicing my sports psychology as well. Other than that, with my fiance, I've co-founded a sports consultancy firm, and we do a lot of grassroots development, whether it's young boys, young girls. And one way for us to give back to the sport is also giving them a professional platform, because I feel like both of us, we were very lost when we were growing up to like make it big, or like where do we go, or like where are we headed, like what's the path ahead as like an athlete. So like, we just want to bring all of that to light. And I feel like as a woman athlete, you're just like expected, not even like you're supposed to, but like you're just expected to wear multiple hats to like make a living, and yet show up on training fully energetic and not 100%. Exhausted, and be motivated and still go and perform, no matter whether you're exhausted, your muscles are responding, not responding, whether you've got enough sleep. And I mean, it's just nice to see that kind of norm is still changing. But like, I've been in Canada for 3 years. I did my master's from there. I played football then. You were in Australia for a while. And sport is just like a curriculum. It's their way of life. And I think like that 100%. To come here, whether you're a boy or a girl, like you're taught all of these things at a very young age. And like, I feel like for that to happen and like, start here and like be inculcated, it's going to take a while. But up until now, like the women who are still making it big, not only the ones who have made it big or like playing for the country, but like who are still struggling and like, going through, like they're in the process of like their journeys to achieve their goals. It's just like so important to like bring them to light 100%. And like, show people that like this is the reality of sport, not just what you see on the screen.
100%. All of what you said resonated with me so much, because you put everything all in there, and it's just very accurate, because it's all our, real struggles. And I think with HerSide, this is the whole point. This is the whole idea. It is to give back and give our stories and give that guidance to whoever it may be who's looking for that. Because when I was doing sport, मुझे तो किसी ने बताया नहीं था कि कैसे आगे बढ़ना है, क्या करना है, क्या नहीं करना है. Do I, right coach कौन है, क्या खाना चाहिए, protein खाना चाहिए, नहीं खाना चाहिए. There's so many questions that you cannot, like, as a young athlete, as a teenage athlete, you cannot seek these answers yourself. You need the right guidance. Especially
when you're like going through puberty, like your menstruation cycle starts, and like how you go about it. And like, I don't think like, like you're told a lot about it, like how you're supposed to manage it. And I'm sure it must have been a struggle for you also to like understand how your body is like different through like the different phases of the cycle, and like how it really functions. So it's not just like, just like performing on the field, but like physiologically as well, like biologically as well, like we're very different.
100%.
Like, to conclude, I would just like to say that these are the stories and these are like the struggles and the experiences. We've lived through it. We have experienced the silence around it as well. And now we're here to speak. And our goal is to try and be as unfiltered as possible and try and bring the real stories that you can connect to, because trust me, like if you're any woman athlete or like, you're looking to pursue a sport, you're not alone in this journey. And that is what we want to do as well. Like we want to connect to people. We want to highlight the stories. We want to highlight the struggles, and we just want to create a culture eventually as well, where we as women athletes, we stand by each other and we support each other in the journey, because if not us, then who? And I feel like, because it is tough to make it big being a woman in sport, and we are here to bring to light, make people aware, and share the stories as much as we possibly can, and do our bit that we can through HerSide, and bringing into light the athlete side, the woman athlete side, because that is very important. And whatever you're going through as well, you're not alone in it. We've been through it. There are other people going through it as well. And maybe that serves as some sort of motivation and some sort of something to just look forward to as well for you. And maybe we can inspire and we can inspire and give you something to look forward to as well, because we know, we've seen it, we've experienced it, and we know how important it is to just have something to look forward to when you're trying to pursue a dream and a goal, and the kind of importance it actually plays in your career in the long term.
I think this is our next step into that dream of sport, and it's a forever continuing thing, and it's almost making me teary to think that we have started and come this far, and starting a new journey. And at the end of it, this is a positive space. It's a space that heals, grows, waters, and loves all of you, all of sport, all of everything that you are, and hopefully can make a positive impact for someone out there.
We are here to change the narrative around women's sport, and this is HerSide for you, because where women there, sport changes. Yeah.